Hello everybody. So this is IC engine lab. So what is IC? Here IC is internal combustion engine. You might have heard that there are various heat engines providing the power for the required application. So internal combustion engine is one of the very important prime movers, and although there are lot of new technologies which are replacing the IC engines partly or completely, but the role of IC engine would not stop, because there would be hybrid vehicles and there would be alternative fuel based vehicles. So vehicles means the transportation. So one of the most important application is the transportation. So in transport sector you can see the diesel engine, petrol engine, gas engines, and various different types of the engines which are required for the vehicles, including the trucks, jeeps, cars, two wheelers, etc. So another application of this IC engine lab would be the power captive plants. So you might have seen that small captive backup power plants of diesel engine based diesel engine and generator coupled power plants are there, which is fulfilling the requirement of the backup power if there is a loss of the grid supply. So in this lab there are various performance test setups as well as the basic models, in order to give the student the exposure to various different features of the IC engines. And one of the setup is the cut section model of the IC engine. You can see here the student can run this setup by their own hand, and then they can see how the valves are operated. So please come you can see here the piston cylinder arrangement and the connecting rod and the camshaft, crankshaft, all those components which are there in the engine, you can visualize, and you can also observe how the valves are placed and how the valves are operated. This next setup is the one of the most important setup developed by the students under the BTech projects, and this is developed by the help of the scrap material of the engine and vehicle. So you can see here the petrol engine set here, and there are certain instruments. Instrument means the sensor and actuators which are mounted in order to run the engine. So you can see here the student can monitor how the sensors are working and how the sensor and actuators ultimately work in the engine, and then you can also diagnose the fault occurred in the engines. So next setup is the petrol engine test set. Now you can see here this is made from the Maruti Mech petrol engine, which is 4-cylinder petrol engine test rig. Petrol engine is also called as SI engine, spark ignition engine. So in this particular setup we can conduct the load test on constant speed as well as variable speed. So we can also do some research on this setup like using some alternative fuel. So alcohol or other type of alcohol based fuel can be used in place of the petrol here. And what type of measurement is possible here? You can see here, you can come here, this is the panel, control panel, and you can see that there are various indicators like temperature indicator, the torque controller, and we can regulate this setup in similar fashion as we regulate a real engine. So for example, this is the speed variable, so we can throttle the speed, the flow, and accordingly we can run the engine, and then we can measure various parameters like the power developed by the help of the eddy current dynamometer, and the temperature at various places are recorded in order to determine the heat balance of the particular given engine. So there are various mechanisms like fuel supply system, ignition system, which is you can see the battery here. We have to start the engine by the help of the battery, and then we run the engine. We calculate the various parameters like the power required, thermal efficiency, etc. And the similar setups we have here for the diesel engine. So this is our single cylinder diesel engine, that is also called as CI engine, compression ignition engine. So in this setup we can again calculate the load test, but basically this engine is for constant speed. So this would simulate a real type of diesel engine generator set, which is utilized for power backup. So you can see here a kind of generator. So this is the electrical generator or alternator which would produce the electricity. And how the electricity is generated, you can see here, this is the engine. So engine utilize the chemical energy of the fuel and then convert that chemical energy into thermal energy and finally mechanical energy. in the form of shaft power. So, shaft power is developed and this is coupled with the generator. So, this generator would produce the electricity. So, in this setup we can conduct the test, because this is a setup which is a constant speed setup. So, we have to so there is a governor here. So, constant speed is maintained by the governor, and we can provide the load by the operating these switches of the given resistance values, and then accordingly the engine would produce the power. And you can see the control panel here, again similar panel where you can read out the temperatures, the RPM, and you can also calculate the what is the volume flow rate of the air and what is the volume flow rate of the fuel. That means how much fuel is consumed, that is possible here to be calculated, and rotometers here are there for measuring the water flow rate. So, this is one of the basic setup which can be started by manual operation, but we have a fully automated engine setup which is which can be started by the self start, that means electric start, and we have various provision here to calculate the different parameters which are not possible with conventional setups. So, this is computerized variable compression ratio engine with the facility to operate the diesel as well as gaseous fuel like LPG, biogas, etc. So, in this setup again there is a dynamometer which is eddy current type of dynamometer in order to calculate the power output, and there are various mechanisms like flow the dual fuel mode. So, there is another injector for the gaseous flow, there is a pump, fuel pump is there which is pressurizing the fuel and then supplying the fuel through the injector here. So, all electronic type of injectors are there, and you can see you can also do the latest most advanced research on this setup by the help of the open ECU, which is the special feature here, because open ECU is a electronic device, and it is a kind of controller which would give you the flexibility to operate the operating parameters like injection pressure, injection timing, etc. Now, you can see how does it work, and we can invite our team members to operate the engine, and now I will give you the demonstration. So, in this particular setup we will start the engine by the help of a software provided connected by the laptop, and then we will run the engine. We can set a particular RPM, that means the speed. We can also provide the different loads, because you know that in actual type of engines or actual type of setups there should be a full flexibility to operate at different RPM, different load, and accordingly there is a provision here in the setup. So, this particular setup would able to give us the parameters which are very crucial for the research, like the thermal efficiency, the power loss in the form of friction losses, and we can also calculate the emissions, because nowadays there are stringent norms. You might have heard about Euro norms, Bharat norms. So, we can see how much emissions are coming out from this engine. So, the engine has been started. Now, it is running on zero load, that means we have not applied any load. So, after some time we will provide the load and then see the parameter. You can see the control panel here, and software is showing how the parameters are changing.